Worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. Big King Sadiq hollering at you one more again. Word life. All right, folks. This is momentous. Indeed, indeed. Um, Everybody, welcome. I thank you all. I love each and every last one of you. Truly. All of you have been with me on this journey, both this awakening and the continued spiritual maturation along this path. We are amidst evolution of human consciousness. Word life, word life. Man, I'm really happy to be starting off today. Just to give a little background real quick, folks. I'm Big King Sadiq, true indeed. My channel, Big King Sadiq, my YouTube channel. I have a robust library, right, of 500 videos. I put up two hands like it's 1,000, right? Of 500 videos that I have compiled for you. And in that library, you're sure to find not just a multitude, a plethora, but just about at least one video on most things that you might be curious about, right? And if you have any recommendations or questions or something that you don't find touched on as far as subject matter in that 500 videos, then please make that recommendation, and perhaps it can be content for the live stream podcast format. All right. Word life, man. Look at you. All of you. If you got a mirror, take a look real good, real quick, because you're all looking good. Word life. This is beautiful. We got a wonderful family that we're establishing here amongst ourselves, right? And I say family because we are just that, humans who spiritual beings, part of a family that have decided to take part in this human experience and embark in this journey toward evolving human beings into and onto our next level of human evolution, which turns out to not be a physical change as much as a change in consciousness, right? Okay. What I wanted to do today, first of all, what I'm going to be doing on the podcast, folks, though everything remains positive in terms of intention and frequency and the subject matter that we're going to cover, this is an adult format, right? This is for 18 years or older. So I wanted to get that out there just in case there are any guests or anyone who may use any language that might be a little bit sensitive for younger viewers, right? Also, I am an official supporter of the cannabis movement, right? I was started to say legalize it, but that's a whole nother area. Just know that I do indeed recognize, take part in, and am grateful for the brethren, sistren, brethren, marijuana, ganja, righteous cannabis, right? That we have benefited from literally for millennia, right? For thousands of years. Human beings have not only benefited from the multitude of medicinal applications of cannabis, but the truly deep esoteric aid that it has been in expanding consciousness, right? And spirituality in many ways. And most certainly inspiring inquisitive thought. One of the reasons by the way, amongst a plethora of reasons that Harry Anslinger back in the day and his cohorts put together the scheme that led to cannabis being made illegal in the first place, right? And regulated in the way that it is, needing for us to even have a movement to make something legal or tolerated that should have never been made illegal in the first place and should have always been utilized by us in the beautiful ways that it has been for thousands of years, right? So just throwing that out there again is another reason why this is an adult only um, live stream podcast format, and you might see a little smoking going on. In fact, you will. So, and that's good because that's part of our process of building. Often, um, man, some of my close friends will recall that when we were teenagers in our later teens, the 17, 18, 19 realm, um, we did used to smoke and literally sit down and build, right? Like we wouldn't just smoke and do silly stuff or watch silly movies. We would literally become incredibly inquisitive and do research, right? Whether it was looking into scriptures like the Bible or Quran, um, whether it was literally getting on the internet and pulling things up, or which the internet was not in nearly in the format that it is now, um, going through different books, by some of the great authors, Francis Cress Welsing, um, um, Dr. Bobby E. Wright, that the whole illustrious plethora of wonderful authors that have given us great material and insight through the years. That's the kind of thing we would do. We would build literally. We would smoke and we would sit down and build with each other. We would look these things up or break open these books, and we would have conversations and we would have, like my man, brother 19 Keys says, we would have high level conversations, right? And that was back then in my early teens. This was before even I began and to go through my spiritual awakening, which is something that just occurred about 7 years ago. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It's been a process of spiritual awakening for me, quite honestly, for over 25 years. Actually, coming up on 30 years now, because, and for those of you who may not know my background, in my early 20s, in fact, 19 and 20, 21, I was in the state penitentiary. Many of you may not know that about me, but now you do. I've always said that certainly don't ever look at me as somebody who's this flawless example of a human being who just led a flawless, blameless, life where, well, we don't get into blame and guilt, but I certainly have made my many mistakes that I now understand have only resulted in and turned into opportunities for me to learn and grow. And that is certainly what I've done. But I spent my 20th and 21st birthday in the state penitentiary. My 20th birthday was actually in the hole. I laugh about it now, right? Because I can do that. But both birthdays were in the state penitentiary. But yeah, it was in there, right? That and I had, just to give a little background, folks, I had already began my venture in theology and spirituality, meaning that I had already begun to study and be a part of different theological disciplines and belief systems. and sort of begin my experimentation on that level, right? Um, yeah, and at that time, I literally uh, went through a number of epiphanies and some very deep spiritual experiences where I called upon the Creator within myself, right? True indeed, and um, beseeched might be a good word, right? The Creator to start me on the path that I'm currently finding myself on now, right? Um, and that's a beautiful thing, and it has been a beautiful process and evolution for me. I did want to lean on my notes just a little bit here and start to talk about a few things that we can look forward to, right, in our near future here. Forgive me, give me just a moment here. I, from time to time, will be having a nibble, right? We're gonna keep it real informal. You may see me take a few bites, a little something to eat, and you may see me begin to smoke the little session, right? Either way it goes, we'll keep it rolling. So I'm having a little something to eat. It's sort of a disclaimer. I don't know if it's necessarily a disclaimer, but I don't eat any meat, right? I do, I guess I'll use the word indulge in some things like cheese. You know, I use cheese still. I use a little bit of milk in my like 1% milk or something in my cooking from time to time. But that's about as close as I come to meat or anything dairy or anything like that. Other than that, I am plant based, right? I don't use the term vegetarian or vegan. But yeah, that's kind of the diet that I am naturally comfortable with now in this stage of my life. I drink a ton of water. I try to keep it um, high pH and you know high vibe water as much as possible. Um, I do like teas and fruit juices that are not from concentrate, right? Um, so yeah, that's kind of my daily intake, right? Of the things I eat and drink. Definitely big on fruits and vegetables, um, and diversity in that. Um, yeah. So all right, we have come, in my estimation, folks, a long way, right? We have come a long way, truly, particularly in this last 7 to 10 years, right? We have made exponential jumps in growth, in consciousness evolution. Um, we really have seen paradigm shifts start to ramp up. The split that many refer to between sort of the really low individuals, people who are actually people, places, things, situations, and scenarios that would fall under or could be classified as low vibrational frequency or sort of caught in that energy. Um, those are the things that we are sort of seeing that split occur with. Um, and indeed, we are seeing um, a bit of a, I don't want to say separation as much as um, almost a filtering, right? And separation in that way that, you know, low vibrational folks, at least that may be struggling with low vibrational frequency energies, um, you know, may have some more intense struggles along those lines, right? And those who find themselves, very freed and escaping and expanding, right? Consciousness and really seeing themselves in a high vibrational frequency experience, human experience. Um, there is a bit of a split that occurs there, right? I mean, and if you think about it, it's kind of only natural. If you think about the behavior that each group would exhibit, um, there is a natural split that occurs, right? And that's fine. Even as we move forward, excuse me, folks, even as we move forward through the years in this thing, we have to understand this is a process, a very, very complex process and a very interactive process in which our energy, our biosphere, right? Our biosphere, our electromagnetic field that extends from our body generally around, 8 meters or so, right? Um, but most certainly in its totality interacts with the quantum field in a very powerful way and helps to dictate our reality, right? We do live in a light matrix that, as far as frequency, is impacted heavily by the vibrations of human consciousness, right? And this is really what dictates our reality. We dictate our reality and manifest our reality all of the time. It's just that most of the time we're doing so from a point of our from within our subconscious, right? Let me say that. Yeah, and in doing that, you certainly are going to have that natural split, right? Um, just because of the range and frequency, right? From those really struggling with low vibe frequencies and those who may be able to encompass higher vibrational frequencies and thus higher consciousness, right? Um, so let's talk a little bit about what we have seen um, and what we can expect to see, right? As we move forward, we're moving forward in uncharted territory, folks. Understand that. First of all, pat yourselves on the back for that, right? We are venturing into the new frontier for humanity. And it's totally not what we might have expected. We would expect something linear, right? Like space has been referred to as the new frontier, right? And I can get into that. We can get into the planet's oceans as a frontier that we have vastly not explored nearly enough yet, right? But I would like to pose human consciousness as the new frontier that we truly need to delve into as far as our exploration, right? So, one of the things that I think that we should really look to see and expect, right, to become a part of our reality is that new humans, or what is has been referred to as new humans, which essentially we're referring to human beings who have gone through some form of an awakening experience, right? And continued on in their spiritual maturation to whatever degree they currently are now, right? But that is what we're going to be seeing the old souls of the planet present themselves as, right? Human beings that are going further and further in the spiritual maturation process after their awakening event, and really growing and expanding their consciousness and providing an example, right? being the way showers, right? For human beings on this planet. Um, Certainly, we're going to see a true emergence um, of those folks. I would say look for that to really start to ramp up this spring, right? Which is going to be a very powerful season, particularly with, in terms of rather, our interaction with the sun. Look for there to be some incredibly powerful, energetic experiences had in the sun this year, right? And make sure that you're a part of that. Make sure that you're getting outside, taking off your shoes and socks, getting your feet planted on Gaia, right? And really connecting with Gaia and interacting with the planet. That you're taking in and appreciating the wind, the galactic winds of change as they blow locally here on our planet, and that you are really communing with and taking part in the energy that the sun is bathing us in, right? All powerful things that we should most certainly take advantage of. We have accomplished, right? So much and really come so far. So a couple of things I wanted to talk about that I've actually like listed, right? We now understand the vibrational nature of existence and density, right? We understand now a lot more about frequency and how it is manipulated and interact with by human consciousness specifically, and all of the powerful implications that come with that, right? And with that, we also start to understand vibrational frequency thresholds and what that means in terms of dimensionality. So, folks, I've long given my sort of quick, very succinct, hopefully astute description or very quick dissertation of or on dimensionality, right? And I have stated that it is vibrational frequency thresholds, right? That denote or that separate or that give us distinct thresholds between dimensions, right? It is levels of vibrational frequency. In other words, if you say, well, and that is, for the record, very measurable, right? We know the vibrational frequency is often measured in hertz or megahertz, right? Okay. So we could start to picture in our minds a range, right? If you're vibrating at this end, the lower vibrational frequency sort of end of the range, maybe folks or things, people, places, things, situations, scenarios that are struggling with resonating at or sort of wrestling with lower vibrational frequencies and all that comes with that. That's sort of one end of the spectrum, and you can travel it all the way up to those who are experiencing very high vibrational frequency people, places, things, situations, scenarios, and we get a picture of what dimensionality is and what that really looks like when we start to talk about the third and fourth and fifth dimension. And I make note that when we start to talk about going into the fifth dimension, folks, it's not just the fifth dimension, right? We're actually talking about crossing over sort of the threshold from linearity to non-linear existence or multi-dimensionality, fifth dimensional existence and above, right? But yeah, that's a little bit more realistic or at least a succinct explanation from me, very briefly on dimensionality as well. We have uncovered much about our own DNA, right? And most interestingly, its multidimensional nature. Folks, scientists, in their ever deeper delving into the complexity of our human DNA, are really starting to understand a lot about the human genome, certainly, but the more specifically the multi-dimensional aspects of our DNA. Um, Truly, the more you look at it, is absolutely fascinating. Um, we understand a lot more about our actual divinity and our connection with the creative source. You'll often hear me talking about the creator within, right? Just real quick on that, folks. Certainly, there is nowhere that the creator is not, right? The creator and sustainer of all things, which we don't really partake or sort of hold up any particular belief system, is the standpoint of the channel and the live stream podcast format. No religions, but we don't necessarily shun anyone's belief system or religion, right? You are where you are, and that's fine. Let's just build. Come build with the big king a little bit, right? And those things will not provide separation for us. We family, right? You heard me. We family. All right. Um, Speaking of which, let me relax a little bit. Word life. True indeed. Um, but yeah, we have come a great deal and start to understand a great deal more about our spirituality, and really utilize um, the tool of introspection, right? And have grown a great deal as a result of that, of using that tool. Excuse me a minute. I'm gonna have another quick bite. Mm-hmm. Some green beans, Brussels sprouts in there. Got good energy up, folks. True indeed. Pardon any talking with my mouth full. But again, we have come a long way, right? And really, we keep it real on here, folks. This is an environment that is dominated by love, true unconditional love. As I say, our Creator's love, right? That is and is going to remain the foundation of what we build with when you come to build with Big King, right? Um, so that's the title, folks. Let's keep on building. All right. So we do understand a lot more and on a lot more intimate level. See, that is the beauty of understanding that, again, the creator, there is nowhere that the creator is not. Thus, the creator is everywhere, which also includes within us. So isn't it prudent, or doesn't it make sense? Doesn't it make spiritual common sense that we make that connection with the creative source within us paramount, first of all, within us? And then we can externally begin to realize and experience that connection, right? Which is most certainly beautiful, right? And folks, on it, speaking from a spiritual perspective or standpoint, I have had some of the most incredibly beautiful experiences over the course of this past 7 years, right? I have grown in ways I simply could not have predicted, right? And the spiritual growth that I've undergone has been profound indeed. And the profundity of I most certainly would never want to minimize. My life has changed to a new life, and that's a beautiful thing for me and for a lot of other people as we surge powerfully forward in paradigm shift. All right. So continuing forward, building more, right? Um, some other things that we've started to really not just be observant of, but to put deeper thought into, right? Like our solar system's orbit around the center of our galaxy. Now, you might say to yourself, Big King, why is that important? If we're not astrologists or not talking about astronomy right now, why is that important? Well, for a number of reasons. First of all, we could start talking about what is considered to be predictions or prophecy, um, like those given by the Maya and by indigenous people around the world about this time, right? That if we would, human beings, that is, were to survive and not destroy ourselves on this planet, um, by the time we got to this positioning in our solar system's orbit around the center of the galaxy, that if we made it to this point, we would undergo a truly incredible transformation on this planet, an evolution of epic proportions, right? We would go through an explosion in higher consciousness for human beings on this planet. And that's powerful, right? And that is where we find ourselves in right now. The positioning that we're in right now calls for and allows for what many of us may refer to as ascension, right? Beginning to think in higher brain waves, right? Theta and higher. Begin to really explore our consciousness much deeper, and start to really explore some existential questions about ourselves and what our position is in this galaxy, right? In existence, and what our role in this thing looks like, right? Not only relative to our planet or the other planets in our solar system, but all the beings, the energies, and the plethora of consciousness that is composed of or encompasses certainly all of our solar system, right? Certainly our planet and all the human beings on it. So also, a lot of us have delved into understanding a lot deeper sort of the illusory matrix, right? Or the old paradigm, right? And the old paradigm has some characteristics as it had been established under the socially economic elites that that I think are important for us to keep in our thoughts, right? For us to really not lose sight of the fact that that old paradigm was established by the socially economic elite and designed for controlling rule that would last millennia. Excuse me, that would last millennia, and it has, right? It has. Folks, that is how long the socially economic elite have been in control on this planet. for thousands of years, and they literally make their plans in like 500-year intervals, right? They do real long-term planning. Here's where we want to be in 50 years, 100 years, 500 years, right? This is our forecast for the millennia, right? This is how they envision themselves maintaining control. But now, certainly, we move into, as we find ourselves in this positioning in the galaxy, a wonderful opportunity for sovereignty and for the rest of humanity to break out of the grip of control of the socially economic elite. And that has already begun to happen. Word life. But then now we start to think about and shift our thinking into the new paradigm and establishing a new paradigm and really what that looks like, right? That's where we find ourselves, or what we find ourselves enthralled in now. Establishing our new high vibrational frequency paradigm that people can flourish in, right? Truly. It is up to us, right? That is a very key component of the new paradigm, is that it is fully up to us to sort of grow up collectively, right? Humanity, I mean, and to put in the work to enact, to start and to really enact our high vibrational frequency paradigm, right? And as we do that, we shift and start to evolve past the old paradigm completely, right? There's some deep stuff about to happen, y'all. First of all, for all of my ufologists and folks who have interest in the UFO UAP phenomena, disclosure is about to go to heights we have not possibly even imagined we'd get to so quickly, right? Look for major disclosure this spring and beyond, right? 2024 is going to really be like a jump off point for a lot of this information to reach the masses. For now, I'm going to leave it sort of at that. But it's going to really be major as we start to take steps to seeing more and more of the galactic community revealed. And as we, as humanity, starts to really wrap our head around and prep ourselves physically, spiritually, and mentally to move forward and begin to take our seat in the galactic community and what that looks like. This stuff is huge. But just so you know, in the backdrop, there are already world governments that are far past the United States in terms of disclosure. They are letting it out, folks. There is no longer a question as to whether or not there are UFOs or whether or not UFO, UAPs, whether or not other intelligences are both visiting the planet, maybe coming from within the planet, and essentially here now, observing, interacting with humanity in different ways, right? That's just not a question anymore. It is now becoming a worldwide fact. It's part of our new paradigm that folks who think it's still science fiction, you're finding yourselves really way behind in awareness. You need to know what's going on and do just a little bit of free thinking research. You can't rely on the mainstream legacy media to inform you on this subject. They just simply are not. Slowly but surely, they're going to be put in a position where they don't have much of a choice. But that's a far more slowly evolving process. And if you're waiting for it to happen in that timeline, you're simply going to be behind the rest of the world, right? More and more every day because other governments are just handling this differently than the United States, Canada, and some other uh, governmental entities in the world. For example, France is completely open with and has full disclosure and openly shares their information with their citizens, right? It's not a discussion. It's not something that carries the mystique or the disdain. I know I'm probably using the wrong words, right? It doesn't carry the same um, uh, sort of negative connotation that it does as a subject matter here in the West. So just look for some major, major things to come along those lines very soon. All right. Some good things on the horizon. Not that those things were bad that I stated, but some really good things on the horizon in terms of um, technological and medical advancements, right? Um, we are going to see sort of parallel to the disclosure movement things revealed that we really should have already known about technologies, um, medical procedures and advancements and progress in areas that most of us still would look at as science fiction. It's science reality now, folks, right? That's where we're at. That's where we're at. Um, for example, folks, in general, the future of medicine is not in chemistry, it's in physics. And if you look at the most groundbreaking things that are happening in medicine right now, it is happening in the usage of sonics and, in general, the field of physics as it relates to the human body. So very, very powerful things coming out of the scientific / medical community along those lines, right? Pills, injections, vaccines, right? Um, I'll state this forecast is of my opinion based on what I have observed, studied, and done research on and become aware of um, on these in these fields and new things that are coming out all the time, right? Um, but indeed, the future of health, I will say, is in physics and not in chemistry. Okay. Um, um, and the evolution of human consciousness will direct that evolution and explosion in higher um, higher ways of doing things um, in medicine and in science and the direction that we're headed. All of that is going to be steered by our evolution in human consciousness. All right. Um, Exciting. We should be excited about those things, folks. Why do I say that? Because it's going to lead to things that we are only tiptoeing on now, right? Um, we are really just tiptoeing and have been just tiptoeing and just barely scratching the surface of human beings' ability to heal themselves and to know and be aware of what's going on within our body. Don't we find it at all odd that this is our body and with the complex nature of the function of our brain and the complex, incredibly complex neural wiring all around our body, and how there is literal connectivity with our entire body. How is it that we would have diseases, ailments, injuries, things fester in our bodies for a long time and have no knowledge of it until someone comes along and administers some form of an external test? Folks, we should be testing ourselves internally. We should be evolving our consciousness in a way that expands our connectivity with our innate. What is our innate? Our innate is sort of the smart body system that we start to tap into. For example, with disciplines like kinesiology or muscle testing, right? Folks, the future of humanity is a far greater interactivity with our own healing and directing of our own healing with our consciousness, right? There's simply a lot more that we should be doing in terms of healing ourselves and maintaining ourselves, things that we should be capable of, right? That we are capable of, that we're simply not bringing into action, right? That we're going to evolve into. And that's a beautiful future to look forward to. And I'm not talking about some distant, far off future. I'm talking about it's beginning to happen now, right? One of the things that's going to happen, and that we're already beginning to start to see happen in some humans. Remember, folks, I told you there are some of us who are already further along in this process, and we are tasked with being the way showers. But this is the direction we're heading in. But human beings will really grow in our capacity to, and our ability to read, to see, or rather at least to perceive our electromagnetic fields or our biosphere, right? And we'll really be able to perceive ourselves in different levels. We'll be able to perceive our quantumness, our quantum field. We'll be able to perceive that. And we will be able to directly read each other's magnetic fields to see what's going on in our auric bodies. So, folks, energetically, and I talk about this in my videos, understand that human beings do exist. This is the scientific fact. We do exist both as physical, corporeal beings and energetically, right? Even if we don't get into spirituality, literally we have several energetic layers to us, right? That make up what I refer to often as our biosphere. But we can also refer to it as our overall greater auric body. When I say auric, I'm referring to your aura, right? Your aura has several different layers to it. Okay. In fact, each of those layers corresponds with and is connected to your chakra, right? The chakra are the energetic pools, or more specifically, the energetic vortexes of each of your auric bodies, right? And all of those things, those energy layers, connects very specifically to our organs and different organ groups and the systematic function of our body. All of this makes up the human being, right? So just having even a loose understanding of that is very helpful, and is very necessary in moving forward to understand how we are growing and evolving, and how our consciousness is interacting with our bodies, our minds, and all of our energy in a very profound way, right? Okay. man, I gave a lot for us to look forward to in beginning to move forward here. Um, a couple of things I want to say quickly before opening up to any questions or comments anybody might have. Um, we got a great deal of help in this, folks, right? First of all, it's happening regardless. Just the fact that humanity has made it to survive, past us destroying ourselves, to arrive at this positioning in the galaxy, in our solar system's orbit around the center of the galaxy. Just that fact and where we actually are in the galaxy and the energies, these incredibly transformative and powerful energies that we're being exposed to and that we have the ability to access. This is all fostering this incredibly explosive expansion in human consciousness, right? So it is happening. There's no debate about that. No matter what perspective or angle you want to look at it from, what discipline you want to look at it from, you know, whether you want to look at it from a perspective of mainstream science, who are already and have already affirmed human beings, and this is backed up in literal experiments and experimental findings, that human beings are exhibiting far more frequent uh, uh, um, resonation, right? I guess you could say resonating in us using higher brain waves far more frequently and showing actual measurable examples of how our consciousness is expanding. Okay, so just understand that this is happening. um, but in that, beside just where we're at and the energies that we're exposed to right now, um, we've got a great deal of help, folks. Gaia, the planet itself, right? Please understand and know that this planet is not just some big rock floating around in space. This is a living entity from which we spring and should give, just in that definition alone, that there's a living entity that we spring from, that makes Gaia our planetary parent. And we should show her that kind of, her, him, it, that kind of respect. But Gaia is a huge partner of humanity in this expanding. Gaia benefits from and certainly wants human consciousness to expand and evolve. Um, we have the uh, the very winds of change, right? Understand that there's a such thing as the winds of change. That's not just some phrase thrown out there. Galactically, there are winds of change that energetically bring change in cycles throughout the universe, and this planet is no exception. So we do have that in our favor as well. And the actual energy that the sun is spewing, or the breaks in energy. Sometimes the changes in what the sun's behavior is doing is that it's very non-expressive, right? And allowing us is sort of pulling back a little bit energetically and allowing our biospheres to expand, right? Um, this is really incredible, folks. It really is. And this is what the Maya, the Hopi, indigenous people all around the world were referring to. We're living it right now. So it is very beautiful and profound. And not all of that being said, I haven't even begun to mention the incredible love. Esoterically, I'll be right now. I guess I'm being right now. The incredible love that we are are receiving and that exists for us on the other side of the veil, right? And right now, the veil itself is incredibly thin. I'm talking about the veil between linear existence, 3D, 4D existence, to 5D existence and beyond, that multi-dimensional existence. The veil that exists there is incredibly thin right now. You can even describe these times and what many have referred to as Ragnarok, right? I'm not an expert on that sort of Norwegian look on the phenomenon, but from what I understand, it refers to that thinning time of the veil, or that time when the thresholds, the dimensional thresholds I referred to, are far more tenable, right? Um, and the potential exists there for energies and sometimes even entities to pass through on a dimensionality basis. So incredible and incredibly profound it is right now, and the love and aid that we have, folks, is immense. The rest of the galaxy is paying attention, close attention, to the evolution of humanity, right? And quite honestly, rooting for us, cheering us on, like, about time y'all grow up and take your seat at the table with the grown folk. True that. True that. All right, man. I love you all. That's I'm gonna cap off what I'm going to present for this week. Built with Big King. But let's see. I see some folks in here, and let's see if we can start to open this up a little bit. Now, I'm a bit of a novice, folks, right? In this format. So bear with me a little bit as I get my skills together and opening things up for us. Let's see, let's get the chat going if we can. Let's see. Okay, here we go. All right, start Q&A. Okay, folks. We are now in the open Q&A segment. All right. Put that in there. Okay, folks. Any questions that you might have, any comments that you might have, hit me up. No, yeah, go ahead and pose that now. I would most certainly love to open this thing up and have some interactive conversation with folks. I do see some folks in here, so if you got any questions, comments, things that you want to raise for us to get into right now, please do so. While you're thinking about that, I'm gonna have a bite and finish up what I was eating. True indeed. It's pretty good. You can take your time. I'm fit to eat. Got a little cold on me. It's still good. I'm gonna wait a few more minutes, folks. And if I don't see any questions rolling in a few more minutes from the people who are in with us, then first of all, thank you all. Truly, this is monumental that I'm beginning this and making this transformation in platform format, right? And I certainly couldn't do any of this without all of you. So thank you all so much. I truly love you and appreciate you, right? Know that. Know that. And yeah, we will be doing the same thing next week, next Saturday at 1 p.m. We're going to have another segment of Building with Big King. And I may or may not have a guest on with me then. But either way, we're going to, present some information and then open this thing up. And I certainly look forward and hope that we'll be more and more interactive as we're building this thing. Hey, folks, we're spiritual beings who are not confounded and perplexed by the construct of time, right? We have patience. So we know this is a process, and we will continue to build this thing up slowly or quickly, however it builds. You will be building with Big King. All right? I love you all. Thank you so much, truly, for chiming in and building with Big King. Big King Sadiq. I love you all. Worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. I'm out.